I'm Stella. Mom, look closely. I'm your real daughter. In front of all the reporters who had come to interview the state's top scorer, my mom coldly pushed me away. Stella, you've disappointed me so much, she sighed, turning to the cameras to explain. Stella has always been the jealous type, always envious of my daughter's good grades. After failing her college entrance exams, I never thought she'd say something so crazy. It's all my fault for not raising her better. Luna, my cousin, wrapped her arm around my mom's, comforting her. Ever since my mom fell into a coma, you took me in and have been better to me than my own mother. She's the one who refused to study. We've done everything we could for her. The nosy neighbors who had gathered around started to chime in. That Stella kid never studies. All she does is run around and fool off. It'd be a miracle if she did well. I'm in the same class as Stella. She's always been jealous of her cousin, constantly talking trash about Luna behind her back. She eats their food, lives in their house, and still badmouths them. What an ungrateful brat. She's just rotten to the core. I heard her mom had her out of wedlock before she even finished college. The looks of contempt and the accusations drowned me. I tried desperately to explain. It wasn't me. Luna did all of it. I'm my mom's real daughter. But no one, not the neighbors who had watched me grow up, not the classmates I'd spent 3 years with, and not even my own mother, seemed to notice anything was wrong. It was as if, in everyone else's eyes, Luna and I had completely switched places. Seeing the triumphant look in Luna's eyes, I knew this was all her doing. I rushed forward, grabbed her by the shoulders, and demanded, Luna, what did you do? Give me back my life. But my mom shoved me away, shielding Luna. Don't you dare touch my daughter, you psycho. That was the last thing I heard before she pushed me, and I tumbled down the stairs. The agony of my neck snapping as I fell was still fresh in my mind. But when I opened my eyes again, I was perfectly fine, lying in my bed. Looking at the date on my phone, I realized I had been reborn, sent back more than 3 months to the day before our first round of mock SATs. I excitedly went to find my mom, but I found her bedroom door slightly ajar. I could faintly hear her talking with Luna. As soon as the college entrance exams are over, I'll help you complete the swap. From then on, you'll be my daughter. Luna's voice was thrilled. You were always my real mom. The one lying in the hospital is the idiot. Inside my aunt's room, my mom was affectionately holding Luna. In the reflection of the makeup mirror on the desk, their similar faces were visible. The chilling part was that the woman wasn't my mom at all. She was my aunt, the one who was supposed to be in a vegetative state in a hospital bed. But for all these years, even I hadn't noticed anything strange. I had just accepted her as my mother. Thinking about my past life, how Luna had stolen everything from me, I finally understood. This was the swap. My aunt took a strange, sinister black bottle from a locked drawer. Tomorrow, make Stella drink this swapping powder. You'll be able to temporarily steal her intelligence. Luna was ecstatic. That's great, Mom. Just wait, I'll get first place in the school for you. I remembered my past life, how I had inexplicably bombed all 3 mock exams. I had always thought it was my own anxiety. It turned out it was their scheming all along. I quietly closed the door and went back to my room, pretending I knew nothing. The next day, I purposely overslept so I wouldn't have time for breakfast and would have to rush to school. My aunt quickly handed me a bottle of milk, specifically reminding me, you can't skip breakfast. Make sure you drink this before the exam. Through the corner of my eye, I saw her give Luna a meaningful look. I understood immediately. The swapping powder was in this milk. Once I got on the bus, I kept my head down, pretending to study flashcards the whole way. When we got to school, Luna saw I still hadn't drunk the milk and couldn't help but nudge me. Hey, you should drink your milk. The exam is about to start. I started walking toward the edge of the athletic field, my eyes scanning the area as I nonchalantly reached for the milk. Seeing a stray dog in the bushes, my hand slipped. The milk bottle fell to the ground and shattered. The white liquid pooled on the pavement, and the stray dog immediately ran over, lapping it up greedily. Luna's face instantly turned whiter than the milk. Luna tried to get out of the exam by claiming she had a stomach ache, but she already had a reputation for being a liar. Especially on the day of a major mock exam, Mr. Lee wasn't about to be fooled. But just as the test began, an agitated Luna suddenly went berserk. She ripped her test paper to shreds, got down on all fours, and started barking like a dog. Her crazed behavior terrified the other students. Only Mr. Lee rushed over to restrain her, but Luna was like a wild animal, snarling viciously at him, drool flying everywhere. I watched coldly, feeling nothing but satisfaction. If you want to take shortcuts and steal the fruits of someone else's hard work through twisted means, you deserve what you get. In the end, the school had to call for an ambulance to take Luna away. Only then could our class continue with the exam. I calmed myself down and focused completely on the test. In just one day, Luna became a school legend. Now everyone knew about the girl in our class who got so stressed about exams that she turned into a dog. My desk mate, Chloe, asked me with a look of utter disbelief, "Luna spends all class snacking, doing her makeup and sleeping. She's dead last in every exam. What pressure could she possibly have? Is she afraid someone's going to steal her title as the worst in the school?" I put on a professional smile. "So do you have pressure? Want to improve? How would you like some personal tutoring from the top-ranked student?" Chloe looked tempted but wary. "How much are you charging?" "I'll have to think about it." I patted her shoulder. "Friend, don't be so materialistic. This is about helping each other out. You get me?" Chloe immediately caught on. "What do you need my help with?" "Just to be clear, I don't do anything illegal." Chloe's dad is a professional locksmith, the legit kind, registered with the police and everything. I told her my mom was reading my diary and had locked it away. She was immediately indignant on my behalf. "It's the 21st century. How can your mom be so controlling? How could she read your diary and not give it back? That's shameless." "Don't worry, I'll definitely help you with this." I brought Chloe back to my house. As expected, it was empty. My aunt was surely at the hospital with Luna. Once Chloe saw it was really my house, she relaxed. She was a natural, a credit to the family business. In just a few minutes, she had the drawer open without damaging the lock. You couldn't even tell it had been picked. After sending Chloe off, I quickly took the strange black bottle out of the drawer. Inside, it looked like nothing more than ordinary white powder. But with this bizarre substance, my aunt had stolen my mother's life, and Luna had stolen mine. For a moment, I was tempted to just throw the swapping powder away. But then I thought of my real mother, lying in a hospital bed in my aunt's place, and I calmed down. I carefully poured out some of the powder and saved it. Luckily, the bottle was oddly shaped, so it was impossible to tell if any was missing. Then I put the black bottle back and returned everything to its original state. Reborn into this life, I wasn't just going to save myself. I was going to save my mother, too. That night, alone in the house, a plan began to form and solidify in my mind. The next day, after the mock exams were over, my aunt came home from the hospital with Luna. The moment I walked in the door, a slipper came flying at my head. Thankfully, I was prepared and dodged it. Luna screamed at me, "This is all your fault, Stella. You're the one who humiliated me and made me a laughingstock." I played innocent. "You're the one who started barking like a dog. I didn't make you do it. How is that my fault?" Luna's face turned red with anger, and she blurted out, "It's because you gave the milk to my aunt," who had been hiding in the kitchen letting Luna vent, finally came out to mediate. She quickly cut Luna off. "Stella, just let it go. The doctor said Luna is under too much stress and can't handle any more agitation." I muttered under my breath, "She fails every test. I can't imagine what pressure she's under." Luna looked like she was about to say more, but a sharp look from my aunt silenced her. That night, I was studying as usual when my aunt came in to check on me around midnight. Once she was sure I was asleep, she went to Luna's room. I crept out of bed to listen. I heard Luna whining, "Mom, I don't want to go to school tomorrow. The other kids will just point and stare at me like I'm a freak." My aunt comforted her. "Sweetie, just bear with it for a little while. Right now, your luck and Stella's are inversely connected. To successfully complete the swap, you first have to drain her good fortune. We can't have any more mistakes on the next mock exams or the actual SATs." So that's how it worked. I remembered before my aunt's car accident. She used to visit our house all the time. Then my parents started fighting more and more frequently. Eventually, my dad took a job transfer to another city, and my mom's mood got even worse. Shortly after that, my aunt had her accident. Now it all made sense. My aunt must have used that time to completely swap with my mom. The person who had the car accident was my real mother, disoriented and terrified after being possessed. If that was the case, I had even more reason not to let them get what they wanted. The next day, when Luna went to school, it caused a sensation, just as she'd feared. People gathered to stare at her like she was a gorilla at the zoo. The students in our class were also freaked out by what she did, especially her deskmate, who was terrified she might suddenly transform again. Luna told anyone who would listen that she had overcome her psychological issues and was going to shock everyone by getting first place on the second mock exam. That just made everyone even more convinced she was crazy. Soon, the results for the first mock exam came out. I was still number 1 in the school. Luna was still dead last. Forced to endure everyone's ridicule, Luna could only glare at me with hateful eyes, like a ghost haunting my every move. I was trying to explain a problem to Chloe, but her eyes kept darting behind me, and she'd occasionally shudder. "Stella, I think you should be careful. Your cousin Luna has really lost it. The way she looks at you is like she wants to kill you." I paid her no mind, burying myself in my studies, my days busy and fulfilling. Luna, on the other hand, continued to slack off. While everyone else was trying to squeeze every possible second out of the day, she was still lazily drifting through. She had already decided to swap with me, so naturally, she wasn't going to waste time and energy getting a good score for me. With the countdown to the college entrance exams ticking away, time slipped through our fingers like sand. Soon, the second round of mock exams arrived. This time, my aunt left nothing to chance. She watched me drink the milk with the swapping powder before letting me leave for school. Seeing this, Luna's face was all smiles. After witnessing the power of the powder last time, she had been eagerly awaiting this day. Just before the exam, she couldn't help but gloat, "Sis, I feel amazing today. I'm definitely going to blow everyone away. How about you?" I frowned. "I don't know what's wrong. I feel a little dizzy." Luna almost couldn't suppress her grin. She offered a few fake words of comfort, and then sat up straight, waiting for the test to be handed out. It was probably the first time in her life she was actually excited for an exam, excited to shut everyone up with her score. But she was doomed to be disappointed. Just like in my previous life, a familiar fog of being possessed settled over my brain. The exam officially began. I quickly scanned the paper. Question types I had done 1,000 times before now looked like complete gibberish. I could count the number of questions I could answer on one hand. Meanwhile, Luna was already writing furiously, full of confidence. After finishing the few problems I could, I twisted open my water bottle and took a sip, making a noticeable amount of noise. That morning, I had secretly added an extra half spoonful of salt to the porridge. Luna was already thirsty, and hearing me drink, she couldn't resist opening her water bottle and taking a couple of gulps herself. The swapping powder I had taken before? I had secretly put it into both of our water bottles that morning. Sure enough, a few moments later, my head began to clear. I picked up the test paper again, and the questions suddenly seemed simple. At the same time, the once confident Luna started fidgeting and scratching her head. I raced against the clock, managing to finish the last question just as the bell rang. Right after I turned in my test, Luna rushed over to me. In stark contrast to my refreshed state, she looked anxious. "Sis, are you still dizzy?" I acted like I knew nothing, smiling happily. "I'm fine now." The dizziness went away after a little while. Luna's eyes darted away, and she forced a smile. "Oh, good. That's good that you're okay." Of course it was good that I was okay. The one who wasn't okay was her. After a full day of exams, Luna returned home, completely dejected. My aunt sensed something was wrong and grew worried, but with me there, neither of them said anything. That night, after I finished studying and went to bed, the two of them rehashed the day's events for hours but couldn't figure out what had gone wrong. Luna asked worriedly, "Do you think the swapping powder expired?" My aunt sounded uncertain. "That shouldn't be possible. I'll try a bigger dose tomorrow." The next day, under the intense stare of my aunt and Luna, I drank the milk with the extra large dose of swapping powder. Only then did they both breathe a sigh of relief. But I had repeated my trick, putting the rest of the powder I had into both of our water bottles. It was a hot day, and before the exam even started, Luna had already taken several big gulps from her bottle. So just a few minutes after I got my test paper, the effect of the swapping powder kicked in, and we swapped back. This time I had plenty of time and didn't have to rush like the day before. Luna, however, was completely broken. To have her hopes crushed so thoroughly after being so high her time was running out. By the last exam, she just gave up, slumping onto her desk and falling asleep. The proctor warned her a few times, then angrily wrote down her name, but there was nothing else he could do. When the results for the second mock exam came out, I barely held on to my number 1 rank. Luna also firmly secured her position at the very bottom. When she found out, my aunt had a meltdown. She didn't suspect me. I mean, who would believe a crazy story about rebirth and body swapping? She genuinely started to believe the swapping powder was expired. She became more and more anxious. This powder was a treasure she had stumbled upon by chance. It didn't exactly come with customer service. Luna whined at her. "This is your fault. You promised I'd be number 1 in the school. I told everyone. Now look at my score. I'm too embarrassed to even show my face." My aunt could only suppress her own anxiety and comfort Luna. "It was just a fluke. Look, the swap worked for me, didn't it? Next time, I'll add an even bigger dose. I promise it won't fail." Luna was still refusing to go to school. My aunt tried to reason with her. "Just hang in there a little longer. As soon as the college exams are over and the swap is complete, all these embarrassing things will become Stella's problems, not yours." Hearing this, Luna's eyes lit up. She muttered to herself, "You're right. In the end, I'm not the one who'll be embarrassed. Everyone will think Stella did all this." With this new understanding, Luna completely let herself go. She started openly skipping classes, showing up late, and leaving early. She even started brazenly dating the school's resident tough guy, basking in the feeling of superiority as his crew called her big sister. Mr. Lee was at his wits' end. He called her parents a few times, but even my aunt couldn't control this runaway horse. Eventually, Mr. Lee gave up. Every time he saw Luna, he would just let out a long sigh. He had no idea that in Luna's mind, everything she was doing now was a form of revenge against me. After she swapped with me, I would not only have terrible grades and a reputation as a psycho, but I'd also have to deal with a bad boy boyfriend. She was determined to leave me with an absolute mess. Amid the anticipation of Luna and my aunt, the third and final mock exam was finally here. This time, my aunt was determined to ensure I drank a full dose of the swapping powder. And in all this time, I hadn't had another chance to get my hands on the powder, so I couldn't fight magic with magic. But that was fine. I was already prepared. On the afternoon before the last mock exam, during the final class period, the police suddenly showed up at school. Apparently, someone had reported that a group of delinquent students from our school had been extorting money from students in the area, and the total amount was large enough to warrant a police investigation. After a brief investigation, the police identified the ringleader as Luna's tough guy boyfriend. And since Luna had been present during the last few shakedowns, she was taken away as an accomplice. This blew up. Parents from several nearby schools were in an uproar. Many of them had just found out their children were being systematically extorted, some to the point of stealing money from home. They weren't having it. The parents mobbed the police station and the school, demanding answers. Now my aunt was too busy to worry about the mock exam. She spent her days running to the police station, trying to get Luna out of trouble. I took the opportunity to finish my exam smoothly. While my aunt was overwhelmed, I used the same excuse to trick Chloe into picking the lock for me one more time. Chloe looked at me exasperated. "You're a genius, seriously, but how are you so bad at hiding a diary?" She then got a funny idea and said shyly, "If you trust me, I could keep it for you. I swear on my life I won't peek. Whoever peeks will be short forever." I brushed her off. "No need. I'm just going to burn it later." Ignoring Chloe's suspicious look, I quickly sent her on her way. Then I took the chance to replace all the swapping powder in the black bottle with white, powdered sleeping pills. As for the real swapping powder, I had bigger plans for it. I don't know how my aunt managed it, But although she brought Luna home, the school was buzzing with rumors that Luna was an extortionist. The parents of the other students in her class demanded the school expel her. Luna was too embarrassed to go back to school anyway. My aunt started making daily trips to the school again. In the end, the school didn't expel Luna, but ordered her to be suspended and study from home. She could still come back to take the final college entrance exams. Luna seemed completely unbothered by this outcome. She went into full-on slacker mode, spending her days at home playing video games and binging shows, thoroughly enjoying herself. After all, she had pinned all her hopes on the swap. Once the exams were over and she took over my body, the person who had to bear all the shame and disgrace would be me, and she would comfortably enjoy the honor that belonged to me. My aunt, however, was fraught with worry. My luck was getting stronger while Luna's was getting weaker, and she was terrified it would affect the final, permanent swap after the exams. But at this point, she had no other choice. Once I went off to college, I would become much harder to control. If Luna hadn't been so unwilling to endure the hardship of studying for the exams, she would have helped her complete the permanent swap long ago. This time, my aunt was dead set on making the post-exam swap happen, and I was just as determined to succeed in my exams. Just 2 days before the SATs, my dad suddenly took leave from work and came home. The reason was my poor performance in class lately. I had been frequently spacing out. After a talk with me, Mr. Lee concluded that I was being affected by Luna. Since he had already mentioned this to my aunt, and she had been completely dismissive, he called my dad. My dad only found out about Luna's recent outrageous behavior from Mr. Lee's call. As the parent of a student about to take the most important exams of her life, he couldn't just sit by. When he got home, he directly told my aunt to send Luna away, that she couldn't stay in the house and affect my exams. My aunt refused, of course, and they had a huge fight. In the end, my dad angrily took me to my grandmother's house. My aunt couldn't stop him. I thought for a long time about whether I should tell my dad everything. But then I remembered how he had just naturally treated my aunt as my mom, without noticing anything strange. I decided against it. Except for me, who had been reborn, in everyone else's eyes, my aunt was my mom. If I told my dad, he would probably just think I was hallucinating from the stress of studying. It was better not to complicate things and risk tipping them off. Thankfully, my dad was very reliable this time. He personally drove me to and from the exam center every day, leaving my aunt no opportunity to interfere. A few times, she tried to bring me food and drinks, but my dad's vigilant watch thwarted her every attempt. Thanks to my dad, my aunt never got the chance to give me the swapping powder. I took the college entrance exams with a clear head and finished them smoothly. The moment I walked out of the exam hall after the last test, I suddenly felt the urge to cry. Many others felt the same, but no one knew how much more hardship I had endured compared to everyone else just to make it through these exams. But finally, it was over. After the exams, I estimated my score to be 2 points higher than in my previous life. It looked like I was a lock for the top scorer. I heard that although Luna took the exams, she turned in every paper early, even leaving a few of them completely blank. At this rate, she probably wouldn't even qualify for a third-tier college. The most anxious person now was my aunt, and her luck was at its lowest point. This was the moment I had been waiting for. My dad had already taken several days off work and needed to go back. He wanted me to go with him for a while to relax before college started. I let this news slip to my aunt. As expected, she started panicking. She called me, playing the victim. "Stella, I know I haven't been a good mother to you. I've neglected you, and I'm so sorry. I'm not against you going to visit your dad for a while, but I haven't seen you in so long. Before you go, could you come see me?" I smiled. "Of course. How about tomorrow afternoon?" "I'm not mad at you, Mom. I'll even buy you your favorite milk tea, okay?" Hearing me agree, my aunt's voice filled with relief. "Yes, yes, yes. My daughter is so thoughtful. Mom will make a whole table of your favorite foods. You have to come." I agreed readily. "Don't worry, I'll definitely be there." The next day, I said I was meeting a friend and left early in the morning. Using the address I had found, I made my way to the hospital ward. The name on the hospital bed read Tanya Wu. That was my aunt's name. But the woman lying in the bed was my real mother. The sleeping woman's face was pale and serene. She looked about half like my aunt, but her features were stronger, more defined. She looked a lot like me. I was only in elementary school when my mom had the car accident. So many years had passed. Even I had once mistaken my aunt for her, resenting her for loving my cousin more than me. All this time, she had been lying here alone, forgotten by everyone. I touched her warm face and whispered in her ear, "Mom, don't be afraid. Your daughter is here to save you." I don't know if it was because she heard my voice, but 2 tears streamed from her closed eyes. I wiped them away, mixed the swapping powder with water, and administered it directly into her stomach through the feeding tube. This was it. Everything depended on this. After leaving the hospital, I went home as promised. My aunt was so excited to see me, her face was flushed. She had indeed prepared a feast, including a familiar glass of milk. I looked around. Where's Luna? Isn't she eating? My aunt looked away uncomfortably, forcing a smile. Luna didn't do well on her exams and is still throwing a tantrum. She won't eat. Let's not worry about her. On my way to wash my hands, I opened Luna's bedroom door. Sure enough, she was fast asleep on her bed, her breathing a little ragged and her face pale. It looked like she had already drunk the swapping powder, which was actually sleeping pills. And she must have had a lot. This was their last chance, after all. Thinking the powder was just weak, my aunt surely wouldn't have skimped on the dosage. It seemed there was more than enough to go around today. Just then, the door behind me creaked. My aunt was standing there silently. Maybe it was the light, but for a second, with her back to the light, my aunt looked like a hideous demon. It was terrifying. She smiled at me. "Stella, don't worry about Luna. Come on, let's eat." Looking at her, I suspected it wasn't just the milk. Probably every dish on the table was laced with the powder. I picked up my chopsticks, hesitated, then put them down again. I looked up at my aunt with a touched expression. "Mom, you must have been busy for a long time making all this food. You worked too hard." My aunt gave a fake smile. "Silly child. A mother will do anything for her children. It's never too much work." I put a straw in the milk tea and held it up to her lips. "Mom, this is your favorite milk tea. Hot, with 1/3 sugar." I waited in line for a long time. "Take a sip before it gets cold." My aunt had no choice but to take a couple of sips. Delicious. "My daughter is so good to me. Mom is so touched." Then she quickly put food on my plate. "You eat too. These are all your favorites. They won't be good if they get cold." I clutched my stomach awkwardly. "Actually, Mom, I just had a milk tea. I'm a little full right now. I'll eat in a bit." My aunt's face twisted for a second, like she was about to lose it, but she forced herself to be patient. "Then have some soup first. Mom simmered this chicken soup all morning. It's delicious. Just try a little." Seeing her expression, a shiver went down my spine. I had no choice but to reluctantly pick up the bowl and take 2 small sips. That was enough. My aunt let out a sigh of relief. I don't know if my aunt used all the remaining powder, but after just 2 sips of soup, I started to feel a wave of drowsiness. I expertly pretended to be in the hazy state of being swapped. Seeing this, my aunt's face lit up. She leaned in close and asked, "Luna? Luna, are you Luna?" My heart skipped a beat. I looked up at her, then slowly shook my head. "I'm not Luna. I'm Stella." My aunt's face darkened. She muttered, "She must not have had enough," and grabbed the glass of milk, pushing it towards my mouth. "Good girl, drink the milk." I stared at the milk tea next to her and said groggily, "Mommy drinks tea, then I'll drink milk." My aunt's mind was completely focused on getting me to drink the milk. Without a second thought, she picked up the tea and chugged half of it down. She let out a breath and held up the empty cup. "See? Mommy finished her tea. Now it's your turn to drink the milk." I nodded and brought the milk to my lips. Then, under my aunt's tense gaze, my hand slipped, and the glass fell to the floor, spilling milk everywhere. My aunt was so angry her face turned purple. She slammed the table and started to stand up, but she staggered and fell back into her chair. She looked at herself, confused, as if she didn't understand what was happening. Watching her eyes start to lose focus and her expression go blank, I knew the swapping powder was working. The time had come. I bit my tongue hard. I had barely ingested any of the sleeping pills, and the sharp pain snapped me fully awake. I leaned in close and asked, mimicking her earlier tone, Tanya? Tanya Wu, do you remember your name as Tanya Wu? My aunt looked at me dazedly. For a moment, she seemed to struggle, which sent a cold sweat down my back. If she suddenly snapped out of it, or if this method didn't work on her, I was finished. I had a backup plan for my dad to come get me. But who knew what a desperate, cornered person would do if she found out I had switched the powder? Thankfully, after a long moment, my aunt finally nodded. She said slowly, yes. My name is Tanya Wu. I am the real Tanya Wu. As she spoke those words, it was like a spell was broken. A sudden wind whipped through the room, obscuring everything from view. Amid my aunt's terrified scream, the strange wind stopped. And the person across the table was different. I asked in a trembling voice, "Who are you? What's your name?" The woman looked like she had just woken up, her expression still hazy. She mumbled, "Sandra, I'm Sandra." I threw myself at her, hugging her tightly as tears streamed down my face. "Mom, you're finally back." My voice seemed to snap her fully awake. She touched my face excitedly. "Stella? You're Stella. I can't believe how big you've gotten." As she spoke, tears filled her eyes too. It turned out that all those years she was in a vegetative state, she couldn't move, but she could still see and hear everything. My aunt would occasionally visit the hospital, putting on a show of sisterly concern, but it was really just to gloat. My mom knew my aunt was going to target me, but could do nothing but lie helplessly in that bed. She cried and laughed at the same time, pulling me into a tight embrace. "My daughter is amazing," she choked out. "Mom is so proud of you." A lump formed in my throat, and I started to sob uncontrollably. We held each other and cried for a long time. When my aunt's name came up, my mom's voice filled with a bitter hatred. We were sisters, but we were completely different from the start. Our family didn't have much, and we both wanted to change our fate. I chose to study hard to better myself, while she was always looking for shortcuts. The results were obvious. My mom graduated from a top university and married my dad, her college sweetheart. They had a stable relationship, successful careers, and a happy family. My aunt, on the other hand, was dumped by a rich kid. Even though she stubbornly had his child, Luna, he had already married someone else and moved abroad. Her dream of marrying into wealth was shattered. When she looked back, she saw that the poor older sister she had once looked down on was now living in a completely different world. They were sisters, so why was one so happy and successful while she was a pitiful single mother, surviving on handouts from that same sister? It was then that my aunt stumbled upon the swapping powder. Without hesitation, she stole the life that belonged to her sister. Once you abandon your conscience once, it's easy to lose it completely. When their children grew up, she wanted to use the same method to have her daughter steal her sister's daughter's life. Taking shortcuts is addictive, effortlessly stealing what others have worked hard for years to build. Maybe even fate couldn't stand it anymore, which is why it gave me a second chance to set things right. Just then my mom's phone rang. She answered it but didn't say a word, just listened for a long time. When she hung up, she looked dazed and let out a long sigh. It was the hospital. They said Tanya had just passed away from a heart attack. I hugged my mom, my own feelings a complicated mess. I didn't know what to say. My mom murmured, "It's karma. It's all karma. You just can't do things that evil. What goes around comes around. No one escapes it." Suddenly the front door opened. It was my dad, back home. Seeing the feast on the table, the tense look on his face softened. My mom's eyes welled up with tears again. She hugged my dad and started apologizing. "Honey, it was all my fault. I shouldn't have listened to my sister's provocations back then. I really thought you were fooling around. I was wrong. Please forgive me. Let's start over." My dad, completely oblivious, hugged her with one arm and waved his other hand dismissively. "Hey, it's no big deal. Since you know you were wrong, a big guy like me isn't going to hold a grudge. My company is transferring me back here soon anyway. Once our daughter leaves for college, we can have our own second honeymoon." I felt my mouth twitch. Seeing my dad so easily placated and about to sit down to eat, I yelled, "Don't eat that. The food's not safe." Before he could ask why, I remembered something else. I slapped my forehead and rushed into Luna's room, yelling, "Dad, Mom, call an ambulance." After being rushed to the hospital for a massive overdose of sleeping pills, Luna was saved, but she was left in a permanent vegetative state. What goes around comes around. Because of her failed exams and all the other chaotic things she'd done, everyone, including my dad, assumed it was a suicide attempt. Though he'd had his issues with Luna and her mother, now that one was dead and the other was in a coma at such a young age, he didn't say anything more. My mom and I made a silent pact to keep the secret of the swap from my dad. He was a worrier, and we were afraid the truth would scare him to death. Besides, the swapping powder was all gone, and I had burned the bottle. We let it all become a secret that would never be spoken. The past was finally in the past. I was, indeed, the state's top scorer. I got into my dream university, filled with anticipation, ready to welcome my brand new life. The end.